It was in 1985. I was 19 years old, and um, some friends of mine, or my friend and his brother, we decided to move to another state and, it was like an adventure and find work and live in the desert, in Arizona and from Washington State, where I am right now, this beautiful area. Who would ever want to move to the desert after being here, right? But uh and so we went down there and the truck broke down a couple times and we ended up having to fix it and we ran out of money pretty much except for gas money. And so by the time we got where we were going, we didn't have money to buy food. And so we started going hungry and we asked churches and none of them would donate any money. And we didn't have a state ID, so we couldn't go to the food bank because we were from Washington, not Arizona. And so we went without food for probably 2 weeks. And um, it was really interesting because after a short while, we weren't hungry. Should uh After a short while, we were drinking water from like gas stations, which nowadays, now that I live so purely, like all organic, non-GMO, a special water from a Kangen machine from Japan, structured and oxygenated and specific acidic levels. I do all this stuff now that I would never have drinking water from a gas station sink back then. I mean, I wouldn't do that now, but so what I noticed is that even at the time that we all of us we went without food for so long that we didn't have any thought. We were just like in this state of being. We had nowhere to go, no responsibilities. We didn't have a job yet. And it was like we were just we just had we were just would drive or sit and there we just weren't thinking. And but out of that no thinking, I got this idea all of a sudden to go to the blood bank and to give blood. And it ended up being a plasma bank where they spin the plasma out of your blood. So I had this big idea out of nowhere, just one idea. And so we looked it up in this big, thick phone book because it was in a right a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, this huge city. And so we went there and they first thing they did was hand us clipboards with a form that says you have to eat 3 square meals a day for 1 week at least in order to give blood or to give plasma for them to pull blood from you. And so uh, we signed it saying that we had eaten so that we could get money so that we could eat. And they also had a big rack of bread sitting over there and we could smell it through the whole place. And so so we signed it and went and started eating and waiting for our turn. And when we went back there, there was 4 rows of reclining seats where they plug you in. And uh, so there's about 60 seats or reclining seats. They weren't all full, but there was a lot of people in there. And so I didn't think anything of it except for when I saw how big that needle was. And it's like as big as a fork prong and hollow so they can pull blood, and so it'll vacuum it out. And so uh about I don't know, like 20, maybe a minute into it. I don't remember, but it was pretty soon after the blood started leaving my body. All of a sudden I started getting faint. And at that point in my life, I'd never had fainted. But I knew that I was going to pass out. And I was like focusing with everything I had to try to stay awake. And my head just turned to the side and this guy way over there with a white in a white coat with a clipboard. He looked right up into my eyes like he was writing. He goes, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I started, yeah, I started shaking my head no, and I just exploded out of my body, like exploded out of my body, like ejected. And uh so I suppose right then I died, I think. And so I exploded out of my body, and I remember feeling like this, and like I could see my body in my mind, and I said, "I'm finally free." And then my body just dissolved. Like it just was gone. And then everything was gone, including my remembrance that I was John and that I was just on the earth. Like everything dissolved. And I was going like a million miles an hour, like at a 45-degree angle, kind of. So there was an angle there, and there's bugs out here. Um, so there was an angle. I was flying, and then this like freedom, like burst from the center of my being, like outwards, this ecstatic freedom. Strangely enough, it wasn't overbearing. It was just like boom, and this freedom, it was just pouring out of me like forever. And then this joy from the freedom just blew off, and it was like this freedom and joy were shining from the center of my being like forever. And uh and so here I feel freedom, and I'm feeling the freedom and the joy, and I'm flying a million miles an hour, and that's all. I'm not thinking or anything. And then I inverted my attention. I got curious, and I started like kind of went in and looked around, and I was like in this. At first, I thought it was my body. I was in this energy that was speckling like this, and it was three colors, like just like a few colors. And I don't really remember like white, red, and something, like kind of like colors that I don't really recognize. And so I'm looking around, and my energy was folding on itself. What I thought was my body was, or what I thought, well, anyway, I didn't know till later because I had to. At first, I just experienced, and then later I thought about it. And so after the whole thing, and so I'm like looking around, and then I focused. It was folding on itself like that as it was traveling, like folding, like on itself. It was odd. And then I like focused in the direction I was headed, and I I had I didn't think human thoughts anymore, but I had a curiosity as to where I was going, without human words. And in that instant, everything stopped, including the feeling of freedom and joy. Just, and I was below um, I was like below this massive ball it was like massive, and like the size of the moon or something, and not, maybe not quite that big. And I could see the line of energy going into the ball. And so like as soon as I had the curiosity, everything stopped, and I didn't go in. And I got this upload that was my answer to my curiosity. And I got this vision. I could see this thing. It was pressing on the energy edge of this universe or this dimension. It was pressing in, like pushing on a balloon, like pushing in, and it was pushed into it and just sitting there. And I got this upload that it had injected a piece of its energy all the way in and created this body. Uh, well, I may have added that later when I was thinking about it, the idea of a body, but anyway, and that it was retracting its energy back into itself from this world. And this is the upload. Basically, that's the basic upload I got. I'm not remembering if I added the idea of a body to that later or what, but I do remember the vision of it injecting its energy and it retrieving it, like pulling it back in. And then um uh everything like shifted like and I was like in this void and with no stars and I could it was like I was an awareness that speckling body didn't was gone and I was just like this pure awareness and I could see the outline of this body like over there sideways on this side. I could see it over there and part of my awareness was in it. I didn't even know anything, by the way. I was just still in a state of being. I could see that my awareness is here and partially in that thing. And there was these big blasts of energy going through the outline of what is this body. Poof. And when it went through, I could feel it in the part of my awareness that was in it. And after one, two, maybe three bursts of energy through the form, I my awareness went fully into that form and was like looking what I could say now, looking out its eyes, but I was aware from the form. And um, so I'm recalling this as I'm thinking about it here. And so um, I still didn't think anything. And then I heard this like sound way down in the void over that way, kind of in the nothing. And it I heard it, it caught my attention, and when my attention went on it, I traveled from here to here. Bonk. I just was there, like teleporting or something. So my awareness transferred from here to there. And now that I'm thinking about it, it was my awareness and not the form, the outline I transferred into. Now that this is the first time actually I thought of that, or that it came to my mind, is that I'm like traveling as an awareness. Like, and so I went boom, boom, and I'm there. Okay, I wasn't traveling yet. And then I heard another noise, and it sounded like I had the slight vision of like this thing, and it was ricocheting and then coming into the void. Like, and it caught my attention. My curiosity was like on it, my awareness, like, and then I transferred from here to there, and then I was traveling, like movement. And it was like this white fog color, kind of like a density to it. I couldn't see through it, and I was traveling through it. And then, so I'm just like, la, 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 I'm just traveling through it. And, and then I hit my right leg in this world. I ran into it in that dimension. So it'd be like in this space was my leg, but in this, but I couldn't see it, but I hit it. And then as soon as I hit it, my whole awareness went into the body in this world. And so it was like the dimensions were merged or crossed right there that at that point. And I think of it now, and the whole thing was orchestrated by that big ball and or by the larger me. And the whole thing was set up. I didn't have any control of any of it or conscious awareness of it or choice really on this level. It just was a setup. Like, and so when I was aware of my body, I became aware of when I hit and I went into my body, I became aware of the presence of a bunch of people. I still didn't have my understanding of this world booted back up yet. And so, oh yeah, now I remember. Uh, so when I became aware of my body, it was different. I became aware of my body and I was peeing my pants or my shorts because it was so hot out. I was wearing shorts and thongs and a button-up shirt that was unbuttoned partway. And I I got a little flash of, or I was aware that there was people and I got a flash of embarrassment. Like I still hadn't booted up, but this thing triggered inside of me of peeing my pants in front of people, even though I still wasn't aware of myself yet as John on Earth. And I went, ooh, and I clenched up trying to stop it from happening. And somebody pushed me down back on the chair and said, oh, I said, did I pee my pants? Like, and someone said, whoever it was said no. And at that point, my eyes were open and he was slapping my face like this, bang, bang, like, what is your name? What is your name? Trying to bring my awareness back, right? And I was just in a state of being still after that burst of energy, like, did I pee my pants? And then I was blank again, and he's trying to bring me back. And I got this flash of irritation that went through my body, or it was like a little flash, went right through my whole body from the bottom up of irritation from getting slapped, I guess. And so I stopped my head from going back and forth, and I looked him right in the eyes, and I focused to give him what he wanted. And when I did, let's see, uh, it's been so long. I'm like, it's fading. Which side is what? So I focused. Oh yeah, it was on this side. And this piece of energy, like that big or so, shaped like a long capsule, kind of, it appeared when I focused to answer him, I saw it in my mind. It appeared, and then the tip of it plugged in right here, like click, but it was still sticking way out there, like this. And when it plugged in, I had the information. It was like it was energy well, I'll get to that in a minute. And so it plugs in and I said my name. And then he started slapping me again. Bang, bang. Where are you? Like, and oh yeah, and then somebody stepped in with a smelling salt and and I was like, ugh, ammonia, I think it is. And I got that irritation flash again and I focused to answer him. I looked him right in the eyes to give him what he wanted. And this other piece of energy that was shorter appeared on this side up here. And it had this swirling energy going. It was white opaque and it was going back and forth inside of it. It appeared and goes click. And so now I have these two, what I had all of my knowledge of this life in me back, in that now that those two things were plugged back in. And I've never heard of that before or since. I'm the only one that I've ever heard say that. and and so now I have all my information. And uh so let's see. Oh yeah, so this guy talks to this guy and he says, should we take another pint, right? And that guy says, yeah, it won't happen again. And so they unplugged it, took the bag away, they spun it out, came back, drained my blood back in, and then they took another one. And there's a whole process that they were doing. And the whole time I'm laying there feeling and remembering everything that just happened. Oh yeah, and during while that was happening, I just had a flash. My friend was behind me in that row behind me against the wall, and I was in the two rows up. There was a row here, and two rows in the middle facing that way. And I was facing away, and he was behind me against the wall, he was offset one, and he was like, John, John, John. He was freaking out, but he was plugged in and he couldn't get up. And I remember he was like, freaking out that and as a side note, about 20 years later, well, to start with, I didn't tell anyone what happened, not even my friend or his brother, who was kind of my friend. I don't know. I just knew his brother, not him really. And I never told anybody about it because, well, I was still thinking about it and mulling it over, and I just never told anyone for a long time. And so, but later on, if I jump 20 years into the future, when my friend went his own way, we parted ways and like went on to our lives. And 20 years later, we came back together. I actually got him a job and a place to live on Orcas Island when he needed a hand. And we were talking about when I died, or what people call an NDE, because you came back. And he says, yeah, after they shocked your heart 3 times. And I didn't know the whole time that they had nailed me 3 times in a row with a electrocuted, like jump started my heart. I didn't even know the whole time.
How
And
long were you out for?
I don't know. It felt like a long time, but maybe a minute or something. I don't know. I never, nobody talked about it. They just took, they finished the process and then gave me a piece of paper. I got up and there was a puddle of urine in the right there. And then I was like, they lied to me, but somehow I didn't feel it until I got up and I took off out of there, right? And got my $20 and then went to the truck and changed. And uh yeah. So um so at that point in my life, I had trained in martial arts since I was 13 till I was 19. And I had seen masters. I had had 2 different teachers at that point. And, uh, I had seen masters do demonstrations like breaking arrows on the hollow of their throat, 7 at a time, like shattering these wooden shafted arrows without leaving a red mark and bending rebar on their throat. And then we try to bend it back after it bent, you know, with people pushing on it, and they'd lean forward and bend it, and we couldn't bend it back. And so I had seen some pretty wild stuff, and so I knew for sure that we have abilities that, we can develop. We're capable of things that normal people aren't able to do, but if you train, you can do something supernatural, which is probably normal to them, but supernatural to us. And so, um, so when I was thinking about what happened, I'd already had teachers. And so my mind was, I wanted to understand, because when I left my body and John and the earth dissolved and I was in a state of being, it, it was as if I never had not been that being. That's just, I didn't have a reference point. It was like I never had not been that. When I think of, later when I thought back on it, the feeling was as if that's what I always was. And so I had some big questions after my programs booted back up, like, well, what am I? If I'm this other being. And I was thinking about, okay, well, I forgot, this whole situation dissolved as this being, as if I never had not been that being. What am I? And so I started searching for teachers, but not martial art teachers. I didn't know what kind of teacher it would be, but I was hunting, literally actively researching and hunting. I was in the back then there was no computer. I don't think there wasn't what we have now. And I was in the libraries researching. At that point I had found out it was near death experience. And so I was researching that and reading everything I could find. So I didn't find anyone that had the experience I had. Everyone met somebody or they communicated with loved ones that have died or something. And they felt this love, this and I've had so many experiences. It's just welling up inside me to tell you about them, about all these things. Everything I'm saying is reminding me of something I've experienced since then. And so I hunted and hunted for a teacher, and how I did that was I asked everyone, whether I knew them or not, if they knew what a near-death experience was, and if they knew anyone that had had one, and if um, they had any special training, like with any a teacher. And I don't remember exactly how I would ask that. I was always really super excited, like I was on it. And uh finally I ran into somebody who I didn't even know. It was my friend's friend who came over while I was at his house. And he was an older guy. We were more teenage, at the end of teenage years. And he was like in his 20s. And I am I immediately asked him if he had any teachers or anything that taught any kind of internal or special knowledge. And he says, "Yes, I do." And boom, I was on him. And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, calm down. Like, I'll talk with you in a minute." And he was talking to my friend. And then he wrote down an address. And he didn't even like try to connect with me, probably because I was too intense. And he handed me this address and he says, "Don't tell them I sent you." Because I was just too intense. But he knew that I really wanted to know, right? And so I went to the address, and it's this place I would walk by all the time, but I never noticed it. And it was like a church. Look, there was a realty office, and it looked like a church. It was a old church building, and on the big sign it said Washington Psychic Institute, and then it said Church of Divine Man. And I was like, "Oh, all right." And so I went to reach for the door handle, and I just couldn't grab the door handle for some reason. I was like, it was like this step I was about to take that's going to change my whole life. And so I left and went to the store, and this is before I was eating organic, and I grabbed a Snicker bar and a Dr. Pepper, all sugar, right? And I like slammed it. My body calmed down. I ate it fast, drank it, and then I went back and walked in. And I looked upstairs, there was nobody. I went downstairs, there was nobody. And then I had this feeling somebody was looking at me, like reading me. I didn't even know what that was yet. And so I was like, so I just sat down and I was like, "Okay, go ahead." I actually said it out loud. I just let him read me. And then some lady walked in. This guy showed up out of nowhere. He went in front of her. He talked with her. She left, and he walked over and looked me right in the eyes, and he says, "Hi, I'm Peter." And that began my training of energy work, clairvoyant training, working with my own system, discover, the very thing I was looking for is to discover what I am, and, what I am and what I am in relationship to the rest of what is, like what is going on here, right? And and so I started training. That was in 19 it's the end of 85, I think. Or no, no, I think it was the end of 86, because I didn't really start training until I was 20. And I actually kind of forgot. It was somewhere right there though, 2021 I started training. And uh I trained for 2.5 years, energy work with myself, doing it with other people, clearing their entire systems, how to clear out buildings, land, how to harness frequency, how to create frequency, how to communicate with beings without bodies, how to communicate with the higher self or the source self of anyone else. Starting Everything starts with yourself. And so you work with your own system, you discover it within yourself, and then you extend to outside of that because you can't really understand. You can only recognize in another what you've recognized within yourself. Like, and so my training began. I trained for a while. It opened up a big can of worms because I had a lot of problems. And those are running programs. And so for the next like 15 years, I was trying to do cleanup, right? Like end running programs that were self-destructive and just dysfunctional um and then I started looking for other energy work institutes. And so I found well, I was already in martial arts, so I found when I was 24 this stuff called Wild Goose Qigong. It's an entire system that where you're doing healing work with energy, but with movement. Like, and then so that helped expand me a little bit, gave me another frame of reference and then I went to therapeutic touch and I learned that system that gave me another frame of a sort of what I started realizing was that there's a base formula of why each system works. And the base formula is you. And how our design works is why any way we approach something, it functions in the way we expect it to, or that we design it to function. Like every system was created by somebody and they designed it. And there's a reason that design works. And so then I became a Reiki master, which was really easy at that point because I was so advanced with energy work. And then I found Spring Forest Qigong. And this guy was a grand master that did a simplified creation, like an entire system for Americans, and he moved to Missouri. And I learned his system before I went and got certified. Like I got all his video courses, and at that point I could I was self-taught, and I totally discovered his system and figured it out, like and was using his system on people, clearing their energy systems and doing healing work. And then I found someone in Seattle that would certify me, and I went to that class, and I was more advanced than him at that point, the actual teacher. And so I sat in the very back corner and I just tuned into everybody. And I could tell if people were comprehending what he was saying or not. And if they weren't, I'd raise my hand and I'd ask a key question that would give the information to everybody that he was missing, that he was forgetting to add, or he didn't have the awareness to feel his impact and to know he needed to dial people in better. And so I got certified in that too. And so what it comes down to really is that our intuition is our inner voice. It's the voice of the deeper us, the us beyond this life, but that it's the larger us that lives forever beyond time and space, the true energy being we are. This is the real us. And so, but this is a new creation. It's a new life. And so that part of us doesn't interfere with what we choose. That's what we call free will. We can live an entire life not remembering the relationship with our deeper self and just think that my name's John and I'm a guy and from America and I'm on Earth. If we even remember we're on a planet, we're so busy surviving. And and so um what I discovered is that there's this communication happening from the deeper part of us. It's already there. Actually, to broaden that, what I discovered is anything anyone's looking for when it comes to the internal understanding of who they are and what everything really is, this design right here is functioning 24/7, whether we're conscious or unconscious of the processes. And that what we're really after is becoming aware of what already is in full function now. It's already in it's full blown already functioning. Otherwise, we couldn't even talk. It's the whole thing's happening. We're getting images and feelings, and the whole thing's happening. But what's happened in society is that the owner's manual was plucked out of our hand at birth, and a new one was stuck in our hands, saying that you are your gender, this is your program, this is how you respond in every situation, this is your place, this is what you do, and it starts from the family outwards. And so we build an entire identity without referencing our actual true nature. Like, and so now we're this identity, and I call it the mistaken identity. Because and since we are made of source energy, the very energy of life itself that creates universes and dimensions and atoms and bodies, and we literally are made of source energy. And when we focus, we're wielding source energy, which is infinite creative potential. And so we focus, we hold an image, and we generate a feeling, and we dial in a frequency, the frequency of our image and our feeling. And then it's like we have a psychic immune system that repel, if what we hold as true for ourself. This is the way this design was created, this thing here, the multidimensional interface with this world, is our design is open-ended. We're not a dog or a cat that can't not bark and can't not meow. We're open-ended, and whatever we hold as true is for real true for us. And the psychic immune system is a system that magnetically repels all information that does not confirm what you know to be true. And it allows through what does confirm it. And so now we have a seamless creational process happening. We hold something as true for real, solid, and then it's like driving a car. At first, we have to really pay attention, and then we dial it in, and now we don't even have to pay attention anymore. We literally can go 10 miles without even looking at the roads. It's like, who the heck was driving? You know, like how did I get here already? And uh it's that deeper part of us. Once we dial in the program, that deeper part of us does it through this level of itself, because really there's no separation. And so we have an exact position that we play. We have the most blessed position, because all we do is focus, we assess, focus. There's a feeling about it. The charge is the juice behind aligning that and materializing it as your life. And I call it frequency resonant alignment. It's a constant natural process we all do. And so we got our hands on like this infinite creative potential. And most of the time we're so caught up in our lives, we're we're taking this infinite power and we're creating a bad day with this infinite potential. It's like, how are you wielding infinite power right now? It's like, well, that depends on what you're focusing on and what you're generating on a feeling level. That's how you're wielding it. And so what I've decided or noticed is that we really need to know how this works, how this system functions. And the core of it is the primary relationship between you and you, because the source you is dialed directly, fully conscious, never separated, and always knows what it is. And we're like the next level. It's like a trinity. There's the giant source of ocean of life, and then there's the next source creation, which is the source of us. And then so it's like a trinity. It goes boom, boom, boom. And so life grows itself. You look anywhere, life increases itself. It's the nature of nature. And so we are that very thing. We're like little godlets. that if we wake up to what we are, we can wield consciously source power, the power we're made of, the power that holds us in existence, and the power that we wield with every focus and every thought and every feeling. And so basically the entire culture, social system and culture, even worldwide, except for rare exceptions or little tiny subgroups within the larger collective, we've been taught to use our system in a way that um, it conflicts with the way it's designed to function. And so what I've done is created a website and 18 different classes on awareness development, live Zoom classes, and like I do energy work with people to help clear the clutter out and to help them and give them like techniques to maintain, to become more aware of their own system and to be able to maintain it, to 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 start understanding how it functions. Because that starts with simply turning off your thought at will, no matter what's going on. And then whatever you were focusing on that's creating that emotion within you or that feeling about what you're focusing on or how you feel in relationship to it, when you turn your thoughts off, it dissolves. It only takes like 3 breaths and your entire system is reset. And now you focus again, and then you have another feeling about what you're focusing on. And so the biggest gift I could share with anyone is that that's a free course on my website because we have to know how to control, how to deactivate our mind or to turn it off at will, or we won't have any control within our system. It's the first move. And then the next one is how to reverse contraction or stress, how to interrupt it, pattern interrupt, and train your system to open, to dilate instead of contract, which it ends up being a full-time job at first, even for me to this day. When you take a deep breath, your system dilates. As simple as that. As for turning, your thoughts normally will settle, but if you have a big charge going on and a lot of unprocessed stuff from your day, there's other ways to turn off your thought, to stop it. And that's on my free um online course. But yeah, kadam.com. And kadam means to be of spiritual service in all the ancient languages. And it's KHADHAM. And it's kadam.com. I was the manager of a on-site manager and security of a I was going to say multi-dimensional, a multi-million dollar estate. And I was down there on the cove. They own the whole private cove there. And so I was down and the hills went up and over there was the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates at the time, who I consider to not be on the level with the well-being of anyone. He's working for that government. And then over here on this hill was a spiritual master. And so I'm down there looking up, I'm looking up at the biggest problem on earth right over here, like, and then I'm looking over here at the biggest answer. And I'm down here just like looking back and forth, and living my life and living in nature and on the ocean and watching the sunset every day. And that guy over there, the spiritual guy, he teaches still to this day in Germany. He goes over there and trains those technical people. And whoever wants to learn has to go there. And but he was my neighbor. And so he would drive by while I was up by the gate and I'd say, "Hey, Aravinda, how you doing?" And we talked as normal people. And he really appreciated that I didn't bow down to him and basically give my power up to him because he was so knowledgeable. And So he told me he had rediscovered the original sound language, had brought it forward out of the human collective where Sanskrit sprung from and Hebrew and like the base sound language. And I says, well, what would my name be in that language? And so he asked me all these questions like, what do you do? And I says, well, I love doing earth energy work, like bringing in higher frequencies into the planet, into the core of the planet and blending it into the toroidal field for healing purposes and then working with people and animals and doing the same thing like and he goes give me a week and he gave me this long description of the syllables and what the sounds meant and he said that my name basically means summoning from the floor of creation pure life energy and boom, focusing it for healing purposes and so I got goosebumps when I said that. But I'm just reminding myself, I think, of oh my God, I better get on my game here because right now is the big need for that kind of ability on the earth. And also, I'd love to show people how to do this stuff because if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like we're all equally capable, and there's no one that's above another, except for in their own mind if they believe that. But that's just in their mind, like it's not true. We're equal, and anything anyone can do, another person can do also. And if somebody knows how to move the energy and clear somebody's energy field on the other side of the earth, well, that's something somebody would want to take note of because they can do it too. And maybe they're already doing it when they're thinking about someone in a bad way, like thinking down on them or thinking positive thoughts. What happens? Because when we focus, energy moves instantly. We need to know that. It's when we think of someone, we're communicating with them, even if we're not aware of it. I call it a tuning. We tune to their frequency like a radio station, and it's beyond time and space. It's in the present moment. And so whatever you're feeling is communicated. And so the baseline answer is that you're helping them, you're reinforcing something that they hold within themselves. So if someone's not a positive person, they have personal issues that they need to remedy in order to see their true self-worth, which is a whole nother thing to talk about. Because since we're made of this energy of life itself, how much more worthy can we be? I mean, look how beautiful it is. I mean, in its perfect harmony, unless if we're out of harmony here and we make an out of harmony move, we disturb the harmony of life, starting with our own system. Like, and so, you know, so yes, what you asked is that they have problems, right? They got issues obviously and so when you said that to me I could see the energy of this person on the negative or the scenario and it was a lower frequency like a dark frequency and the other person it was light and in that light feeling within yourself when you talked about that the reason it feels good is because a higher frequency is what you are your true nature is a higher vibratory being and so when you focus on something that matches in a way that matches your own nature, it feels good. That's the inner GPS. Holding a thought. Is it a good feeling thought or a bad feeling thought? If it's a bad feeling thought, that's your deeper self showing you that what you're focusing on is out of alignment. How you're focusing on what you're focusing on is out of alignment with your actual own nature. And so you're like, but it is true. And and that's true, like, and so what you do is you put it on the edge of your awareness And if when you we're taught to focus on things and to touch them and to join them on an energy level, now we feel like we don't feel good when we're focusing on something that doesn't feel good to us. And so what we need to understand how our system works and oh, water delivery. I don't know if you'll hear it, but so we just need to understand how this system is designed to function, how we function as a being, so that we can do it in a way that is in our own favor, in alignment with the way it's created to function. When we feel abrasiveness or negativity, we're not running our system, we're running our system against the grain of it, like instead of with it, like this. And so that's my whole purpose, is to show people how their system works. Because right away you start realizing you are not your system. Because yeah. And that, well, you start discovering that you aren't your system, and then you will end up discovering what you are. And then in relationship to your system. And that breaks the 3D focus. And just turning off your thoughts at will, you discover that you're not your thoughts, you're not your body. Your body is, you own, it's like the computer, you're the owner operator of your body. And like literally, and in this case, we want to be the owner and have that responsibility, because as the owner, we can adjust our system in any way we choose. We can be worse than we are. We can be dump all that and be as good as we can be. And we can literally become aware of the whole function and adjust it into the alignment. Basically, what we're after is to run our system in alignment with the nature we are. But and part of the process is recognizing your nature. It's not separate from you. It is what you are. And so we don't have a frame of reference around this normally, like unless you're raised in a family that already has this frame of reference. And so, well, there's no, so basically the nature of nature, like we could call it the source of life. Well, that's what we are. We're the nature of nature. Like our nature is made of nature, of the source energy of life. And so how much more worthy and beautiful can we be? Like, and so, and you take that idea or that knowing or that feeling of what that feels like to think that thought, to hold that focus, and then you compare it to what we are going through in our life, not knowing that. It's a train wreck, really. Even if we got it easy, it's still a train wreck, because we think we're all a train wreck. All the cars are falling off the track in every direction, and it's just not good. We're off track. And so here we are, billions of us being born, living a full life, and re-emerging the near-death thing without coming back into our true self, retracted back in, and then it goes from there. And each of us, that's another thing, each of us is fully unique and individual. We're like the flavor of our being, there is no other that is you or me or anyone. So we're like a flower that is a creation that is only one, there's only one of them. And I mean, how more rare and special can somebody be, really? And so I'm getting right now from that part of myself. So the primary relationship, let's go there. We can adjust, that relationship is hardwired in our intuition, insight, comprehension, knowing, just knowing. Like you just know your head turns and someone's looking at you from 100 feet away. There's no way you knew, but the inner part of you did know and turned your head and you looked right in their eyes. And then they looked away, right? Like there we have knowing. And so all of that is the inner communication that is embedded within us from that source level of ourself. And so what we want to do is change that we want to adjust that relationship so that it's conscious, so that we are literally consciously receiving information. This is what I've done. And so I'm not guessing. And I'm attempting to dial it in better and better because, well, just because I have to. Otherwise, my life isn't very pleasant. Like what I did is I gave my inner self permission to interrupt me while I'm talking and not to wait in between thoughts. Like it'll put information in while you're not engaged, respecting your choice of focus, whether it's positive or negative. And then, and so I'm like, okay, I recognize how it functions, how it communicates with me. And so I had a meeting with that level of myself, and I was like, I want you to interrupt me right in the middle of a sentence while I am focused and tell me if I'm off, interrupt me if I'm off, tell me why I'm off and what the actual answer is in one flash, not in words, just realization, comprehension, like knowing, like that language that we experience every day. Like we always are experiencing this communication, this internal, I get the word from that part of myself, function. Um, and this is what happens all the time. I get words and I'll say them, and I might not consciously be aware of what's going on, and clairvoyant readings and stuff. I'm like, well, it doesn't really make sense to me, but this, I'm saying this, but I don't actually know what it means. Does it mean anything to you? And like, oh yeah, yeah, it means something to me. And like, and so and it happens to us, we'll be focusing on something and we get more ideas about it surface into our mind. That is because whatever we focus on grows, it magnifies. And that part of us is informing us, is giving us more information about what we're interested in and we're focusing on. And a lot of times it's something we didn't know before. And so what we're after here is discovering how this works. What is the design here? And my job when I work with people is just to point out because I see it within myself and I'm observing and I can see where you are on that level within you. I point at it while it's happening and you notice and it brings it into your conscious awareness. And now you are conscious of an internal, previously unconscious process within your own self. And to me, it's the only way to discover is through you. And because we've been taught to memorize facts and recite them on cue without any life experience about this subject matter. And it's like, and then we argue and police each other like, no, it's Caribbean, not Caribbean, and it's potato, not potato. And so we're keeping each other in line with this thing that doesn't matter at all. It's just it's this attempt to control. I'm getting this feeling that I should expound on when you focus on somebody, positive or negative, what happens. So basically you're in a way we either are cursing or blessing somebody when we think of them, unless we know how to be neutral. And then we can observe without doing either of those, cursing or blessing them. And so, but what the sun's starting to come up over, what I've done or developed, see, I can't really take claim on this level for all this stuff I've discovered because it's the deeper part of me that is showing me these things that already knows. And it's like, hey, do it this way, try this. And it'll give me an upload, like, check out this, boom, like, and I'm like, oh, and then I do it. And see, the deal is that when we focus, that level of ourself moves the energy into that alignment. And so when I'm doing healing work with somebody, I'm focusing on them. I call it focus neutral. I focus like a radar, but I open at the same time. And I'm listening to my inner source self, the intuition, the insight. I'm waiting for it to show me what I'm looking at. What is here? What am I supposed to be seeing here? What is going on here? And then it'll give me it'll show me what to focus. It'll give me an idea of a technique to focus. Many times it's a technique that I've never heard of, but it makes total sense because I have comprehension coming through with the information. Oh, I get it. And when I hold the focus, when I hold the focus that it shows me to hold, then, as it always does, it moves the energy into that alignment. And so it's like an invitation. You have to focus it for it to move the energy, because we can't micromanage from a personality level a multidimensional reality. We don't even hardly know how we breathe, let alone how to move energy anywhere on earth or within our own system. Even we don't even know. We can't. That's not our position. Is to focus, and then that part of us moves it into that alignment. And it's very simple. And in the highest function, it is heaven, because what you hold, what you image and feel becomes your reality. And so, of course, that's the way it works anyway. It becomes your getting a correction. It becomes your experience. Reality, I guess reality is a loaded word. And because it implies one reality, usually it points back to the training. There's only one way, and it's the way we have authorized. And if you deviate from it, you're wrong enough. We're going to make you outcast now because you're not authorized and certified, and like the whole system is locked down. And so we are more than we know, and we can know the more that we are, and we can work directly with it in the present moment and live our life in that relationship. And so this is my whole purpose. All the work I do is to help people clear the clutter so they can get straight to the process, because we collect stuff through our whole life. Identity layers, like key points in our life that we felt a specific way within ourselves that are really strong and magnified. Like anything in the environment will trigger that to the forefront. And now we're feeling like we felt when we were 15 or something, and like, boom, how we knew ourselves then. And we need to unload those identity layers, remove them. And in order to become present with the nature you are, it's part of the process is to recognize how all this works and to work with it. What ends up happening is the inner part of you brings it to the forefront out of the thousands of things we've collected and that we have in motion. It'll bring it to the forefront for you to reconsider and decide whether you want this running program in your system. And then of course, if it doesn't feel good, you don't want it. It might have served you then, but it's not serving you now. It doesn't reflect how you wish to experience yourself in your life. And so then you need to know how to unload it. And it's not really that hard, because everything is created through the images we hold and the feeling we generate. And we're very creative. We are creative life. And so every technique that was ever devised or shown or utilized is well, some people don't use their visual, they're more feelers or more auditory. And so you use your senses to align, to construct a creative maneuver to remove that from your system. And while you're holding that in mind, the deeper part of you shows you how. because you're holding a focus and it gives you more information about the focus. Like it's a normal process. And so my job is to like when I communicate with people, I'm on the move. I'm super flexible and I'm listening to that part of me and I'm like it's showing me, well, I really need to claim it because we are one. The source part of ourself, this is one unit with many aspects. And so I'm just listening and waiting for the part of me that does know, and the part of me that functions on that level to inform this level of what I'm looking at and what focus to hold or what to say. Or it'll give me information of where someone is. I'll even see, like we all do, like if you think of your cat or your toilet, like you'll get a flash, a picture of it, like in your mind, like, and so what I'm doing is, um, what we all actually need to be doing is becoming aware of how this functions, and to rearrange our the way we know ourselves into the alignment of the actual truth of what we are and what we're an inseparable part of. And here I am jumping all over. Of course, that's my nature though. So I love moving. So what we're supposed to be doing is discovering these things and sharing these discoveries and not saying, hey, the way I figured it out is the way, quote unquote. But it's more like, water is wet, the air moves, the sun shines. There are some basic principles that we can all agree on. And that is how it works with this system. That we can all, what we need to do is talk about it in a very distilled, direct way that bypasses politics and religion and addresses programming. Like it'll pop up, um, all our just anyway. So I got off the track of the NDE there. Oh, inner GPS.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. I've heard different big teachers talk about that, but it's totally true. It's a our inner GPS is that what it really is anything we focus on, we compare it to our nature. And the comparative analysis is how we feel about that, or like in that position that we're focusing. And so like what is our resonant alignment with what we're focusing on, and that goes down to, it comes to our thoughts, like uh the thought we hold, which is the beginning of the alignment process of the manifestation of our life. Like, I mean, I don't claim to be a master at this. I'm in the process of discovering all this and have been for a long time, and I'm dialed in enough to where I'm constantly being dialed in. And I will go off track, and I will be shown that right away now. Whoop, I'll notice because it doesn't feel good, or I'll notice if I'm running on a program or if I'm basically channeling or direct information from the part of me that knows everything. Like it's not, you got to be careful about the word channeling. At the Psychic Institute, they're like, we do not channel. But I'm like, well, but we do. We're tuning in and channeling the very source of our nature. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's true. And like we're dialing each other in, when people come together for growth, um, if it's real growth, here's how you'll know what facilitator to pick or someone to communicate with. The person who points at you, helps you put your power back into your hand right away. Like you are the author, which is the opposite of authority. outside self-proclaimed authority over you through the objective perception training. And we went through that. Everything's outside of us. We get to know ourselves in relationship to everything over there. We totally aren't referencing the true nature that we are. We totally lose track of who we are and what our relationship is to the rest of what is on the real level. It all becomes imaginal, intellectual, logical, gets locked down. So I got a little off track. Uh, I mean, I lost my
Right.
track on that because I have strong feelings about it. I mean, everyone it's like everyone is in distress. Like at least separation anxiety from the very source of their own being. Like we've lost track of who we are and what we are and what we're a part of and what is our nature. I know what the dog's nature is. I know what the cat's nature is. I know what the tree's nature is, but what is my nature? What is my relationship within nature? And we could talk about it all day, but that discovery comes from within you, from that nature. That when you desire to know and you go after that desire to that part of you, you give permission to that part of you to bring that to the forefront and to start schooling, or not schooling you, to start revealing to you what you are. And it's in relationship to the nature you are. So I'm so dialed on distillation and direct information in a way that doesn't offend the religious, or of course if someone really really wants to live that experience and they want to dial their life in that way, then well, in Christianity alone it's like don't dabble with this stuff, it's witchcraft. And the reason they do that is to keep you any system will tell you, like Western medicine, um uh don't do anything holistic, don't do anything but what I tell you. So you can't, you only do what I say. I just had a recent, I just sold a 105-pound rose quartz to a millionaire on Orcas Island. I took it over to him for, I got $1,000 for it. It's probably worth 3 times that much. And he told, I says, I'll give you an energy clearing because I gave him a clearing before, and an energy healing or clearing, or clearing out a system, and getting the interference off of him so that he can function, like out without interference. So all the processes going on can happen and they're not being blocked or hitting blocks. And he said, I'm working with a woman who's from Arcturus, and she's a walk-in, and she embodied, and she tells me not to let anyone else touch my energy in any way. And I was like, oh, I was shocked, like this person's like siphoning his money and controlling him, right? But if it's what he chooses for himself, that's okay. That's where he is in his growth. And that's where he's at. That's what he's doing. That's his thing. It's none of my business, right? And so I just said, that's what Western medicine says. And he said, yeah, I know. And I just let it go. But then I asked him before I drove off, can I have that lady's name and look her up? And because I want to, I learned from looking at people's energies that aren't putting the power in your hands right away. You are the power, not somebody else. Your ideas, sure, you might do an imitation, like I'll show you how to move energy one way of infinite ways. And then as you do it, the inner part of you starts dialing you in right away. How do you personalizing it for you and giving you ideas of how you could use this for yourself in whatever way. And you end up like outgrowing the immediate. You might want to stick with it and dial it in just so you can feel it. But then your job, which you can't help, it's not even a job, your nature will outgrow it and it will expand upon it and personalize it in a way that matches you. And so all this idea about there's only one way and you got to do it my way, and this is what I've discovered and this is the way it is, that's all a crock of crap. My website, or you could email me directly. Um, I have so many emails for different purposes. Uh, but to keep with the website, kadam.com, you could go on kadam at protonmail.com, and KHADHAM. And, I've tried and tried to keep my consultations down to 15 minutes, the free ones, but it always ends up being like 40 minutes or an hour. So I made a in-depth discovery call that, and to charge a little. I get a lot of crap. We just, my partner and I, she's a sound healer. I'm training her on all this stuff that I know that she doesn't know. She's showing me, we're cross training. She's showing me what she knows, and we're both getting ideas that we didn't have before from cross training. Like that, what I was just mentioning, you personalize it and it grows, and you expand beyond the original. um that very well could be what we're doing on a total life level, is the original source we are. We're expanding beyond that, or expanding it. The it is what we are, though. So we're not like doing this service for some being, and not getting anything out of it. It's actually what we are. We're expanding ourselves. And there's this big thing going on in the world about being, basically, the difference between absolute freedom and total enslavement. And so far the human species has been enslaved through thought, through warmongers, through trust and kindness. The very trust is what has been used against us as a species, because all life just naturally trusts. And, oh yeah, here's a stick, I'm going to make my nest, and the bird makes its nest and the food's just right there. And we have this inborn trust, and that has been used against the human species, to where our parental umbilical is pulled out and stuck into the government, the medical science, judicial and law enforcement, into other people's systems. We are the author of our own being and our own life. We are the author, not some stranger we would never allow to babysit our children, or we wouldn't even have dinner with them, because they're such criminals. I mean, they're so what the only answer that I can see so far is to not focus on that, and to focus on this and that nature, this nature, and the larger nature it's a part of. This is the work that carries through beyond this life. You know, when we do that, when we're going to drop this body, if we didn't figure out how to turn it into pure light and take it with us, if we're going to drop this body, or when we're getting ready to, the natural next step is simply to step into what you've already been doing. Awareness development of what you are and what nature is, and your relationship to it, your working relationship. You're not, the you that you've discovered is the you are there also. Like, instead of thinking, if you think you're your body, and you identify with your possessions solely, without the soul involved, that you are, then you're really I mean, like, what is going to happen? Like, you're going to be like, oh my God, you're going to have to be completely re-educated when you step over. And that's actually what does happen. There's a complete upload. You're like getting interfaced with, and helping you come out of it, like out of amnesia. Like, come on, come on. This is upload after upload after upload from the source of your own being. And then finally you're back. Oh, and then wherever it goes from there, because each of us is unique and different. And we can't really say it happens just one way, because nothing does. Like right here. Like they look the same, but nothing is the same. Not one blade of grass. Everything's unique. There's a unity, but it's all diverse. And so it's like this multi-dimensional idea. When you start thinking about it, it's like, well, how can unity be diverse? Diversity, well, just look around you. Here's some, here's some right here. You and me.